But that leads us into the third topic perfectly, which is who on this Utah football team has the most to gain with the 2020 season being reinstated. So, Cole, who do you think it is?
Well, I've talked about both these players already, but now just gonna dig in a little bit deeper. And with the season happening, I think there's a few guys on this roster that really needed it to happen in order to boost their potential draft stock, to make it to the next level, to go to the NFL. And those players are Jake Bentley or Brant Keithy. Now, Brant was targeted 34 times last year in a primarily running offense, you'd say. He had 602 yards, 6 touchdowns, 17.7 yards per catch, as I already mentioned. Imagine what he can do in an offense run by Jake Bentley, who's going to pass the ball more and I think better than Tyler Huntley. I expect him to have more receptions, more touchdowns, and to be one of the main targets in big situations. Last year, towards the end of the year, that's what it seemed to be with Keithy and Huntley, is that we needed a first down. We're facing third and long. He's hitting Keithy. Now, that was without Covey, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays into effect. But I think Keithy is one of those guys. Now, the second guy is the guy throwing the passes, and I think it's going to be Jake Bentley. I've said that a million times. I'm going to keep saying it until I see it happen, because I think if I say it, it'll come true. But Jake Bentley transferred to be the starting quarterback. He did not come to Utah to sit on the sidelines and watch a lower classman run the show as he finishes his college career. That's not going to happen. So I'm going to compare Bentley's 2018 stats, which are probably the best of his college career, to Justin Herbert's 2019 stats, who we know was taken in the NFL draft pretty high by the Los Angeles Chargers. So Bentley's best stats: 240 completions, 388 attempts, 61.9 completion percentage, with 3,171 yards, 8.2 average, 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Comparing that to Herbert, 286 completions, so Bentley's about 40 less. Mm-hmm. The attempts were 428. The completion for Herbert was 66.8%, so about 5% better. The yards were 3,471, so it's actually only 300 yards exactly, which is interesting. The yards per play, or per catch, or per throw, Herbert was less. He had 8.1. So Bentley had him there. And then the touchdowns are pretty close. 32 to Bentley's 27. Now, where Herbert was better was the amount of interceptions. He only threw 6 interceptions last year. And as I said earlier, Bentley had 14. But, Sammy, that is so much closer than I expected it. When I was jotting down my notes, thinking about this show, thinking about what, the guys that have the most to benefit, I didn't realize it's not a huge difference. I think Herbert is definitely a better quarterback. He's a starting quarterback in the NFL right now. But I think if Bentley can tweak a couple of things, and especially with the quality of receivers that he has, I think he can really show people that he is worth a lot more, and he might be able to do something special this season.
For sure. I also wonder how many of the interceptions is because he's playing in the SEC. He's playing in one of the best defensive conferences known.
Yeah.
But so I have 2 players that I think this is going to benefit the most. One on the offense and one on the defense. So I already mentioned Devin Lloyd. I think Devin Lloyd also could benefit from an extra year or another like this season, so to boost his draft stock too. Like we already talked about, this year he's going to be one of the keystones of the defense. He is a returning starter. He's played in these big time games. He had big plays last year. He had interceptions. He had sacks. He had strips. He had strip fumbles. Like he had these big plays that Utah's defense needed. So I think Devin Lloyd is one that could really, really, really benefit from this. But my other player is Nick Ford on the Utah offensive line. Ford has been one of the best offensive linemen Utah's had in the last couple of years. I love Nick. I think he is so good at what he does, and I think that him and Devin are what I would call like on the bubble. Like they can benefit from from this season to help boost their draft stock for future years. So either if they choose to declare after their junior year, which would be this year, or if they come back for their senior season, it's just going to help them. And Nick Ford coming back to this Utah offensive line, you have him and you have Orlando Umana, two upperclassmen on that Utah offensive line with a lot of underclassmen as well. That's going to help him. He's going to be able to help these underclassmen get up to speed, get up to where they need to be. And I think Nick has a lot to gain. Utah's put a lot of guys in the NFL, if you really think about it. Garrett Bowles, Isaac Asiata, Sam Tevi. There's a lot of guys that Utah has put into the NFL that are offensive linemen. And I think Nick Ford is the next one that Utah puts in the NFL, whether it be at the end of this year or it be next year or whenever, or if he comes back for his senior year. He will be the next player, offensive lineman that Utah puts in the NFL.
Yeah, I think he has a great opportunity to do so. I think Utah is able to really produce quality offensive linemen just with the offense that they so often use to attack. I mean, I think it's not only do you need to protect the quarterback, but the gaps and the holes that they were able to open up for Zach Moss over the last couple of seasons and all of the great running backs that we've had in recent years. It's impressive, I'm sure, to NFL scouts. You need to be able to do both, and with the highly and fairly balanced offense that Utah runs, they do a good job and they get it done. And I think you've hit it right on the head there, Sammy. I think Ford's going to have a really good chance to prove himself this season, especially with a lot of questions around how the offense is going to be with all these new additions, with potentially bringing in a transfer, or if it's Cameron Rising, a guy that hasn't seen a lot of college snaps, he's going to have to be at the top of his game to make sure that guy's protected.
But even if Rising is the quarterback, they were on the same team last year. I'm not worried about chemistry at all. And I think that's another thing that Utah has going for them with the delaying of the season is that a lot of these guys have more time to get these chemistry and these bonds built up with the new additions with Bentley and with all the freshmen that are coming in and stuff. So I'm not worried.
Yeah, and they do have these next 6 weeks to really to figure it out. I believe practice is going to start this week, which is really exciting. It'll be fun to see those guys back out on the field, throwing the old pigskin around, and it's a good time. It's great that Pac-12 football has decided to return, and I think Utah has a real shot to again compete for a Pac-12 championship.